So we are on YouTube Live.
Yes.
And sir, we've told the participants that the questions will be taken in the end, right? So they can just post their questions in the chat box and I'll assist you in taking up those questions.
Okay.
Ma'am, can we start now?
Yeah.
Yes, Parul.
Good afternoon to one and all present here today. I welcome you again today for this live session on ancient Indian history and management, and how these two ancient Indian wisdom and management and how these two can be linked and worked upon. For this session, we have with us Professor C.S. Sharma. Sir is a professor at Sri Ram College of Commerce, University of Delhi. And he's got a broad experience in India as well as overseas in teaching, program development, institution building, financial performance, and business development. He has been the author of 11 books and he has written more than 50 research papers with publications on topics like fuzzy financial ratios, mergers and acquisitions, servant leadership, spirituality and green purchasing intentions, default probability, servant leadership, and many more. Sir has acted in a consultative capacity to corporations, renowned institutions of higher learning, and is a sought-after speaker, notably in research methodology, human behavior, and finance. Sir has been a director at Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies and JRE Group of Institutions. Apart from supervising PhD scholars at IIT Delhi, Department of Commerce, University of Delhi, Amity University, he has conducted numerous workshops and training programs at institutions like Punjab Police Academy, Ramanujan College, NHPC, TIS Mumbai, CPDHE University of Delhi, Academic Staff College Guru Jambeshwar University, MDU Rohtak, Manav Rachna University, National Academy for Training and Research in Social Security, Government of India, to name a few. He is also a coordinator of National Resource Center, Commerce Discipline at SRCC, which is running under national level refresher programs under ARPIT. We are privileged to have you here with us, sir. And thank you so much for finding time for this program. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Namaskar. So the topic today is ancient Indian wisdom and management. Basically, a few questions arise here. Number one, why this topic? What is the relevance of this topic in today's scenario? Why ancient Indian wisdom? And what is this ancient Indian wisdom? What is ancient Indian wisdom? As I start talking to you, it will become clear. But for the time being, let me put it this way. You know, in the West, currently, the entire knowledge that we are imparting, entire teaching that we are doing today, that knowledge is rooted in what knowledge has been generated, created by the Westerners. The paradigm, the perspective essentially remains the knowledge that has been generated in the West. Look at your textbooks. All theories have started there. Look at your research, our research. Our research is also based on the literature that has been created, generated in the West. Now, basic thing is that I have realized, and you will also realize it if I give you some cues, that a large number of knowledge, large quantum of knowledge that is being generated in the Western world, it already exists with us. And interestingly, there is one more thing about the Westerners, famous Westerners, that they have taken ideas from us have taken ideas from our ancient scriptures, our ancient philosophy, and they have repackaged them and sold it to the whole world, including us. I'll give you some examples. Stephen LeBurge gave the idea of lucid dreaming. Now, lucid dreaming is something which has become very popular. It has caught the whole world by storm. And it's taken as a very important self-development tool. But Stephen LeBurge learned this in India. It is nothing but yoga nidra. And he went back, repackaged the whole thing, and presented it to the world as lucid dreaming. In the initial years, he was acknowledging that it was a form, or it was actually yoga nidra, because he was completely immersed in the practice of yoga nidra, gained its benefits, and then started selling it, but gave a different name altogether called lucid dreaming. And today, there is no mention of yoga nidra in his selling of lucid dreaming. I'll give you one more example. This was a concept of mindfulness that was given by John Kabat-Zinn. Now, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness was actually learned by John Kabat-Zinn in India in the form of Vipassana. Now, Vipassana is a very famous mode of meditation which follows the Buddhist philosophy in India. And it is a very powerful tool. This fellow repackaged the whole thing and presented it as mindfulness. And very interestingly, if you Google mindfulness or Google spirituality research, and you look at the research papers on spirituality, a large number of research papers will come on the concept of mindfulness. So it has been, Vipassana has been completely hijacked by the concept of mindfulness. Another example, third one, it was Herbenson who talked of relational response system. And relational response system is nothing but a form of meditation, which was nothing but the transcendental meditation developed by Mahesh Yogi. Once again, in the beginning, the person was completely immersed in the transcendental meditation of Mahesh Yogi, gained its benefits, mastered it, went back to his country, United States of America, gathered some people to do research on it, and presented it as relational response. Now, interesting thing is, now that these have become popular, the original idea from where they had stolen this, from where they had hijacked it, there is no mention of it. Yoga Nidra does not find any meditation. Vipassana does not find any mention. The transcendental meditation does not find any mention. But these people have become millionaires. Okay, earn money, no problem with us. But our idea is repackaged and sold to us, or being sold to us. That is the thing. So there is a lot of strength in the ideas that we had in our ancient scriptures. And those scriptures can be utilized for the purposes of managing organizations and managing self. So this is what basically the idea is. Now, why I am talking about only only management, application of ancient Indian wisdom to management. The reason is that management is a very important field of study. It is a field of study which is actually can be considered as a major tool to commercialize scientific innovation. All the innovations that are there, that take place in the laboratory, those innovations come to the public through commercial means only. And these commercial means are provided by business organizations, whether of large scale, medium scale, or the low scale. And how to run these organizations, that is what the focus of field of management is. So basically, I feel that the ancient Indian wisdom can be utilized for the purposes of managing our organizations. Now, what shall be the unit of analysis? Now, when we talk of management, there are essentially 3 units of analysis. First is the larger one, we call it organization. Second is the group, and the third one is the individual. Now, it is the individual that is a great focus of ancient Indian wisdom. And now come to the second point. First thing I've said, why this idea has come. Basically, the Westerners are stealing the ideas from us and are repackaging and selling it to us. Why should we not start doing the same thing? Why should we not start developing our own theories and practices which are rooted in our own culture rather than the Western paradigm? That is what the basic idea is behind this particular discussion that I am having with you, my dear friends. You see, one idea that comes is here. That idea is, number one, that the unit of analysis here is the individual. Now what before I proceed with that, there is one more idea that I'm getting, and I think I should talk about it. And that idea is this. What is the meaning of this ancient Indian wisdom, and from where this ancient Indian wisdom is coming? Actually, we can think of this coming from the most ancient scriptures that we have. One is Vedas, the Upanishads, and I can say, if you give me the liberty to say this, the summarization of the Upanishads in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. That is one source. The Upanishads, the Vedant, and Upanishads and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And second is the stories. Stories like the story of Shri Ram, or history if you want to call it. Because there is a difference between history and itihas. I would not go into the detail. So we can put it itihas. The itihas, as we define itihas, it is dharmartam kama mokshanam upadesha samanvitam purvoktam kathayuktam itihasam pravikshati. It is different from history. History is concerned with documentation of the past events, but itihas is different from that. Itihas is something which is purvoktam kathayuktam. What has the events that have taken place before, earlier, how those stories are presented with a view to dharmartha kama mokshanam, with a view to carrying on the dharma and the enlightenment. That is what itihas is. So it is not mere documentation of the past history. The purpose of this is much more than that. And we would say Ramayana, Mahabharata, and other stories like that fall within what we call itihas. That can be considered because The purpose of these stories is not merely stating the events that have occurred, but those events with a view to dharma, kama, mokshanam, with the purposes of establishing what is right, A. Number two, for the purpose of enlightenment, which means wisdom. Now, that this is the second important source. Now, please notice these two sources, and of course, there can be third one, and the third one can be what we call the folklore, folk stories. That could be the third one. Now, I am not talking about the folklore. I'm not talking of the itihas. I am talking essentially about the scriptures like Vedant, Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita. Now, here one thing has to be understood from the very beginning. And that thing is, dear friends, that when we talk of developing management theories and practices with paradigms rooted in Indian ethos, Indian way of thinking, why the word wisdom? Why use the word wisdom here? The reason is as follows. You see, as far as knowledge is concerned, it has some levels. There are 3-4 levels that we have. The first level of knowledge is what we call the facts. A statement of fact. For example, saying, this is a finger. I am human. Or a number. The facts, which are obvious to the 5 senses. That is, there is no application of the mind in it. It is the existence of a certain state of affairs. Those facts, the objective existence, irrespective of the interpretation thereof. That is called the level, it is called the fact. And when these facts are organized, when these facts are given a form, this becomes information. For example, you have certain numbers with you about any subject or phenomenon, and if you put them in a certain order, say in the tabular form, you have information. Organizing the facts. Now, third level comes when you start giving meaning to the information. That is called knowledge. And when knowledge is enlightened, that knowledge becomes wisdom. As for example, in the 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna says, first shlok, Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam. Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam. Knowledge with Vijnan. Jnana Sahit Vijnan. Jnana with Vijnan. And Vijnan here does not mean science. Vijnan means wisdom. Knowledge with wisdom. Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam Yat Gyatva Mokshyasi Shubha. By knowing which, you get moksha and shubh. You get auspiciousness and you get light. You get enlightenment. So this is what actually the wisdom is about. So it is a level of knowledge in which there is auspiciousness on one hand, and not just auspiciousness, but it gives you enlightenment. Now here, when we say why we talk of the ancient Indian wisdom, why ancient? What is so special about it? The special about this particular knowledge is that it is a knowledge which is not some sort of dogma. It is a knowledge which is not based on some sort of belief. It is a knowledge which is based on very, very keen observation and analysis. And for example, let me prove this particular point that is based on keen observation and analysis. I'm giving an example to prove this particular point. The example, for example, is, let us look at the concept of time. We talk of time, definitely. Now, comes the issue, how to measure time. Now, it is something we all take it for granted. We all have watches with us, and we know the time is divided between, we can say, we have to start from second, and then, crudely speaking, I'm not going to the lower level, for example, say nanoseconds, and so milliseconds and nanoseconds. Let us say we start with a simple thing called time, starting with seconds, then minutes. Certain seconds make minutes. Certain minutes make an hour, and certain number of hours makes a day. Certain number of days makes a week. Certain weeks make a month. Certain months make a year, and so on. Now, this is how we are measuring. Now, the concept of time in Indian scriptures has been one source I'm telling you, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the third canto, third skand, and chapter 9, there are a large number of shlokas which are dealing with the concept of time. And one of the shlokas speaks about how time can be measured. Now see this shlok. Let me read this shlok to you. The shlok says, Dvadashardha palonmanam chaturabhi chaturangulaihi swarnamashahi krit chidram yavat prast jalat putham. Now what does it mean? Let me just explain to you. It says Dvadashardha. Dvadash means 12. Ardha means half. Half of 12. Palon manam. Take the weight. Pal is a unit of weight. So Dvadashardha palon manam. There is half of 12 pal of weight. Please take it. But that is, take a vessel which is of 6 palas, which weighs 6 pal. And just up to about 60, 70 years back, we were measuring the weights in the form of palas, or pal as we call it. Chaturbhi chaturangulaihi swarnam ashahi, which means what? Chaturbhi chaturangulaihi. 4 angul long, 4 finger long, chaturbhi, and 4 weightage of swarnam ashay, which means a stick made of gold which has weight of 4 and is 4 angul broad. Now, weight is given, for example, to you, and length is given. Weight is given to you, length is given to you, then diameter of that particular shalaka, swarnam ashay, made of gold, that is given that it is made of gold. Now, kirta chidram, make a hole with this into that vessel which has 6 palas. Yavat prast jalat putham. Now put water in it. And as the water gets filled into it, the period in which that water will be filled, that period will be called nadika. Now look at the depth and keenness of observation and description. How to measure time. A nadika can be measured with the help of that duration, or nadika is the time duration which lapses in filling a vessel which has a weight of 6 palas and has a hole which is made with the help of a stick made of gold which has 4 angul long and has weight of 4. Now, this is a very keen observation. Now, that is what I am trying to say. Like this, you can get n number of examples and descriptions. And all this is not religious. The scriptures, particularly the Vedas and the Upanishads, they are not religious. Religious in what sense? Actually, what a religion is, if we understand the religion in the general sense, we would say religion would compose of, number one, there has to be a book, not an idea, a book. Number two, there has to be a prophet, a book, and a code of conduct, given code of conduct. If that code of conduct is followed, you are following the religion. And if you are not following a code of conduct, then you are not following the religion. And number four, there is a superordinate goal or superhuman goal. For example, superhuman goal of, say, for example, going to heaven and achieving it. All right? The day of judgment in case of Christianity and Islam. And of course, Judaism. This kind of things are not there in these scriptures. These scriptures talk about superhuman goal is definitely there. And that goal is that you identify yourself with the entire universe. But there is no very specific code of conduct given to you. A code of conduct, if you don't follow, then you are not a member of that particular religion. That kind of a thing is not there. And there is not a single thought. There is not a single book. There are multiple thoughts. Actually, if you look at these scriptures, and if you look at the summary of these, as it is described and recognized by the scholars, that Srimad Bhagavad Gita gives you the summary of the entire thought in a very, very concise manner. Now look at this. Look at this. Srimad Bhagavad Gita consists of 18 chapters. The 18th chapter is the last one. And 18th chapter, in 18th chapter, Shri Krishna completes his message in 66th shlok. Now, while Shri Krishna is completing his discourse, and as he reaches 63rd shlok, he is just about to complete his discourse. He is about to complete what he wants to communicate. When he is in that process, at that time, just before completing his discussion, what he says is, it is something very important. In 63rd shlok, he says, Itite jnanam akyatam guhyad guhyataram maya. Vimarsha etat visheshena yathechasi tatha kuru. Now please see, let me explain this. It's a very, very important statement of Indian philosophy. The statement is this: Itite jnanam akyatam. Iti means completed. Te jnanam, completed. To you is the jnanam akyatam. Jnanam means knowledge. Akyatam means explanation. Explanation of knowledge to you is completed. Itite jnanam akyatam. I have actually explained the entire knowledge to you. And what type of knowledge? He says, Guhyad guhya tarammaya. Guhya means deep. Now see the use of the word. Guhyad guhya tarammaya. Deeper of the deep. He does not use the word deepest. See the choice of the word by the author of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. He does not say deepest of the deep. Guhyat guhya taram maya. He says guhyat guhya tam maya. No. He says, I have given you the knowledge which is deeper of the deep, which means that there is further scope that we can have more deep knowledge also, dear friend. And who is saying this? It is Shri Krishna, the character, who is making this statement. I have given you all the knowledge, which is deeper of the deep. But he is not saying that look, and look, who is this Shri Krishna? This Shri Krishna earlier has said, Aham krit samasya jagata prabhava pralayas tatha. the self, he says, to symbolize himself, he says that I am the cause of the universe. Aham kritsanasya jagata. I am the cause of the universe, and prabhavas tatha, and of the origin. This actually, he is symbolizing himself as the origin as well as the end. And even then he says that I have given you the knowledge which is deeper of the deep. And look what he says. He continues now. And he continues as saying, Vimarsha etat visheshe. Vimarsha means vimarsh. Think over it. Etat, on this. Vimarsha etat visheshena. Especially. Especially think over this. Now, look, I have given you all the knowledge that you need. All the knowledge which is deeper of the deep. But think over this. And think over this especially. And yathe chasi tatha kuru. Do as you like. Now see the freedom that has been given. Shri Krishna, it is not that ye nahi kaha ki that you will become dharmchyut, that you will no longer be within this religion, within this dharma. No, you will not become condemnable. He does not condemn you if you do not follow that. Completely upon you. And this particular shlok is the fundamental strength of the Indian philosophy. And the fundamental thing is what? Individual freedom. Even Shri Krishna, and if you say Lord Shri Krishna, even if you take that liberty of saying that Lord Shri Krishna is saying, the incarnation of Vishnu is saying, I'm not saying consider it like that. Even if you consider it, even then, the idea is what? I have given you the entire knowledge. But this knowledge is deeper of the deep. In future, it can be further expanded. Not the final. But you think over this. And how do you think over it? Visheshena. Especially think over this. And do as you like. Do as you choose. And why he says so? He says so because he says that ultimate reality is inside us all. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hrideshe arjun tishtati. It is inside all beings, the ultimate reality, which is called Ishwar. This ultimate reality is the truth, inner truth of your own, and it is not to come from outside. It is for this reason that we talk about talking of this ancient Indian wisdom. This ancient Indian wisdom is not prescriptive. It is advisory. If you want to follow it, you follow it. If you do not want to follow it, you are completely at freedom not to follow it. So it does not make you either religious or irreligious for that matter. But what can be the benefit? Now see, when Shri Krishna, what can be the benefit? Benefit can be management of the self. And how that self, look at Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Shri Krishna starts his message in the 11th shlok of 2nd chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And he ends his message in the 66th shlok of 18th chapter. And it cannot be just a coincidence that the word from which he starts, the word Shri Krishna speaks in the beginning of the message, is the same word at which he ends the message. And an interesting thing is, what is the word? The word is last word, for example, Ma Shuchaha, do not grieve. The word is do not grieve. The word he starts with in 2nd chapter is grief. Do not grieve. Ashochasvanva shochastvam. Do not grieve. Ashoch. Do not grieve. He starts with this. Ashochasvanva shochastvam. Do not grieve what is for those who are not worth being grieved. And where he ends? He ends, Ma Shuchaha. Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshishyami. I will liberate you of all your troubles. Ma Shuchaha. Do not grieve. So actually, Bhagavad Gita appears to me as a treatise, as a document which is all about managing the grief as we live and journey through the world. Now, dear friends, coming back to our discussion. Now, the unit of analysis in in the ancient Indian wisdom is the individual. And so is the working of mind, the individual unit. Now, let me draw some parallels for you. A lot of work on the issue of choice has been done by Daniel Kahneman, who was given the Nobel Prize. He was a psychologist, but he was given Nobel Prize in economics in the year 2002. And he has worked on the issue of how human beings make decisions, how human beings how human beings think. How does the mind really operate? What is the mechanism through which it operates? He has done it with the help of certain experiments he conducted. I would like to share two of those experiments, and then I would say how those very ideas are there in our own scriptures. Very interesting. See first, experiment number 1. In this experiment, what Daniel Kahneman had done was that a task was given. The task was given to a large number of subjects, and the task was given to the task was this, that these subjects were supposed to watch a short video. In the video, there was a game of two teams, game of basketball. In that game of basketball, there was one team which was wearing, say, black shirts, and the other team was wearing, say, the green shirt. The task that was given to the subjects was this. Task was that please look at this and count the number of passes the team wearing black shirts, the number of passes that are made by the members of team wearing black shirt. This was the task. And the video was played. The person was supposed to count how many times the ball was changing hands through the game. And in the game of basketball, there are 5 players on one side and 5 players on the other side. The ball is supposed to be dribbled with the help of hands and then put in the basket. I'm sure you know about the basketball. Now, when the subjects were watching that video, short video, and were counting the passes, number of passes that were being made by the members of a particular team, at that time, very mysteriously, one person would pass by from one end to the another, and that person would stay on the screen for as long as 9 long seconds. An interesting thing that was observed was that a large number of people who were involved in watching this video, this large number of subjects, could not notice the coming of that individual on the screen and going away. They had no memory whatsoever of that person coming to the screen. And this was considered as something very, very important finding. I'll come to the interpretation of this shortly. Before that, before I interpret this, another experiment that was done by the psychologists, Daniel Kahneman. And this experiment was also very equally important. The experiment was this, my dear friends. In this experiment, certain subjects were brought into a room. and they were given a task. The task was that they would put their hand, immerse their hand in a bowl of cold water having a temperature of 14 degrees Celsius. 14 degrees Celsius is a fairly cold water, and this is a little uncomfortable to us. And they were asked to put their fingers inside that bowl with water having a temperature of 14 degrees Celsius for a period of 60 seconds. And that was it. After that, these subjects were asked after about 15-20 minutes time, when the temperature of the finger had become normal. These people were asked to immerse their hand once again in the bowl of water, but now they were asked to put their hand for 90 seconds. And while they were putting their hand in that water for 90 seconds, then during the first 60 seconds, the temperature of the water was kept at 14 degrees Celsius. That is, the same degree of discomfort was made to be experienced by the subjects as in the earlier experiment, earlier immersion of their hands in the bowl of water. But after 30 seconds, some warm water was added without the knowledge of the subject to the bowl. And the temperature was increased slightly to 15 degrees Celsius. Now, 15 degrees Celsius is also uncomfortable, but it is comparatively less comfortable than when the water is at 14 degrees Celsius. Now, these two experiments are done. Now, what are these two experiments? These two experiments are, number one, in the first one, there is discomfort for a period of 60 seconds. In the second one, also there is discomfort, but the discomfort is for a period of 90 seconds. Out of that, 30 seconds is also, last 30 seconds is less uncomfortable. Discomfort is there, but the discomfort is less than what it was before. Now, the subjects were asked after that one question: which experiment they will like to repeat? Will they like to put their water for 60 seconds, or they would like to put their water for a period of 90 seconds? Now, please see, there is discomfort in one for 90 seconds, but last 30 seconds are slightly less uncomfortable. Discomfort is a little less. In the first one, there is discomfort of the same level, but for complete 60 seconds. And you know what was the finding? Finding was very interesting. The finding was that more than 80% subjects said that they would prefer to go through this discomfort, go through putting the hand in the water for 90 seconds. Very interesting fact. What is its interpretation? See the interpretation. Interpretation was this, that there is one experiencing self within us. A self within us which is obtaining data from outside. This is experiencing self. Like for example, it is sensory. For example, you look at somebody and that person comes right in front of you and you immediately jump to some conclusion. There is no interpretation. You just gather the data. For example, breeze comes. You just experience the breeze, but don't interpret. But at the same time, there is another self inside us. It is not the single self that we have. Mind is not a unitary phenomenon. There is another self which is interpreting self. Daniel Kahneman calls it system 2. System 1 and system 2 he calls it. I prefer to call it, there is experiencing self within us, which gathers data through the sensory means, and there is an interpreting self sitting inside us. Now see, The experiencing self is experiencing discomfort for a period of 90 seconds. But there is an interpreting self sitting inside. It has averaged the experience. That is, it is remembering only the peaks and bottoms of the discomfort and is preferring to go through, is remembering, and therefore is remembering only the less discomfort portion. You are experiencing discomfort for a period of 90 seconds, but still you are preferring to go through that experience because the last portion is less uncomfortable. Now, does it really continue? Does it happen in other situations also? Another experiment was conducted, my dear friends. And that experiment was conducted on the patients who were going through the colonoscopy. In the colonoscopy, a wire is inserted in the human body through the anus with a view to understanding the intestines. All right, it is a fairly painful process, my dear friends. Now, in this particular experiment, what they did, they divided the subjects into two parts. Subjects of first experiment. In the subjects of first experiment, the wire was inserted inside the anus and taken out over a period of 8 minutes. All right, it was quite painful. And as the wire was being inserted inside the body, the patients were asked to rate their experience of pain on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10. If there was no pain, they were asked to rate 0. And if the pain was unbearable while the wire was being inserted inside, then they would rate it 8. Now, this was taken from some subjects, these data. After that, it was performed on another set of patients. In case of these patients, the wire was inserted inside their body over a period of 24 long minutes. But it was inserted very, very slowly. Okay? And again, these people were asked to report the pain every 2 minutes. After every 2 minutes, they were asked, how much is the pain? Please tell us on a scale of 0 to 10. And what was observed? In case of second set of patients in whom the colonoscopy was performed over a period of 24 minutes, the highest pain was observed of the order of 8. And lowest pain was observed of the level 0. In case of the other group in which the colonoscopy was performed in 8 minutes time, highest pain was observed of the level of 8 out of 10. And lowest pain they reported was of 4. Now please notice, numbers we have with us. Highest pain 8 on a scale of 10 in case of the patients on whom the colonoscopy was performed over 8 minutes. And lowest was 4. And when these patients were asked, on an average, how much was the pain? And you know what they reported without counting? They reported it was 6, sir. Suits well, fine, 6. Other group on whom it was performed, the colonoscopy was performed over 24 long minutes. When they were asked, what is your pain? They said 4. 8 was the highest, 0 was null. Now, average was this. These patients were then given an option. You see, highest pain is 8. The patients who went through the colonoscopy for a period of 24 minutes. If this particular procedure is performed on you once again, there's an option. You can do it over 8 minutes where pain will be higher. But if you do it slowly, it will be over at 24 minutes time. Which one will you prefer? So people said we will prefer the one in which the procedure takes place 24 minutes. Now please notice. The experiencing self is experiencing pain over a long period of time, 24 minutes. A foreign body is inside you for a period of 24 damn long minutes, in which highest pain point is 8. Yes. Lowest pain point is 0. No pain. Also. So what the interpreting self has done, it has averaged out the entire experience, entire thing, my dear friends. The experiencing self in both the cases is experiencing the pain, but interpreting self inside is moderating that experience, my dear friends. Now, what is actually happening? There is a certain reality that we are experiencing, but that reality is being interpreted in a very, very entirely different form. In Vedanta, we call it adhyasa. Adhyasa. That is superimpose. That is, there is a state of affairs, we call it Ishvara Srishti, and there is a Jiva Srishti. There is a objective reality. For example, we say there is those of you who are aware of the epistemology and ontology of the phenomena, on epistemology of knowledge and ontology of the state of nature, there is an objective reality which exists irrespective of mind. We call it Ishvara Srishti. There is objective reality of the pain that the individual is going through during the colonoscopy. There is an objective reality of the counting of the passing of the balls. And there is another reality which has been superimposed by the interpretation in both the examples. Whether it is the example of the putting the fingers inside the cold water or the experience of going through the colonoscopy. In the example, in the experiment relating to the passing of the balls, the reality was completely ignored. Mind did not notice because mind was occupied elsewhere. So human mind essentially functions in a manner which has been given. This word adhyasa has actually been used in Brahma Sutra by Adiguru Shankaracharya when he discussed the nature of the world, nature of reality. So, dear friends, what I'm just trying to communicate, is that whatever we are discovering through these experiments, psychological experiments about the working of the human mind, that wisdom is already there. Only thing is that in our teaching of management of self, we are not making use of this. Look, for example, the communication. In Vedanta, they say, Atma vare shrotavyam mantavyam niditya sitavyam. Niditya sitavyam. Three things they are using. Atma vare shrotavyam. When you are communicating, shrotavyam, listen. And mantavyam. Mantavyam means reflect. And number 3, niditya sitavyam, which means meditate. The communication is not complete unless all the 3 things are there. If shrotavyam, if you're listening, and if listening is not accompanied with reflection and meditation, you will forget it. It will be a disturbed listening. For example, shrotavyam, you listen, Atma vare shrotavyam. If you listen in complete form so that you can reflect. Now, if shrotavyam is disturbed, then it will be what? You do not reflect. You impose your own ideas upon that. Now the reception will not be there. A communication, for example, I speak a word, I speak a sentence, and this sentence at the same time, rather than taking it as it is and reflecting on it, you start imposing your own ideas upon it. And communication is completely disturbed. And when that happens, there will be distortion in the communication of information, because information is not received in the objective form in which it is, my dear friends. So the communication is complete when there is a scope. Shrotavyam, there is a scope for mantavyam. There is a scope from niditya sitavyam. There is a scope on the information that you are receiving, that you can reflect on it, that you can meditate on it, that you do not superimpose your idea upon it. Then it becomes completely distorted. You know, we often do a game while teaching communication. We gather say 7, 8, 9 persons, and to one person we narrate a paragraph, and that paragraph we ask that person to communicate to the next person. Then the next person communicates the same, whatever he has heard, to the next person, and so on. And very often we find, by the time the information reaches the 9th person or 10th person, the whole thing has got completely distorted and changed. Now this is what happens. Now, why does it happen? It happens because we know the psychological process, whatever experiments have been done for understanding the psychological process, it is that already stored information is superimposed upon what one is listening. Now, if you are superimposing the information already stored in the mind, then mantavyam, that is reflection, cannot take place. Reflection can take place only when the information is heard in absolute form. So we say Atma vare shrotavyam mantavyam nidita sitavyam. Without it, it cannot take place. So these are the pearls of wisdom that are available to us to a very, very great extent. Now, my dear friends, in this context, I shall just like to say one statement. For example, how do you become successful? For example, one thing is that we need to be focused. Now, how we need to be, is this what I'm talking about, management of the self. How to manage self, how to develop resilience inside you, how to develop emotional intelligence within you. Now, these are some of the issues that have been presented in the management texts whenever we talk of managing self, managing teams, managing groups, and managing organizations, or managing success for that matter, or managing results. Now here, whatever the Westerners might be saying, but look at Srimad Bhagavad Gita. There is a shloka which says, Ananya chetaha yo mam smarati nityasham tasyaham solabhapa nitya yuktasya yogina. Let us understand the meaning and see what it says. what the wisdom, the enlightened knowledge, as I said earlier, yogam jnanam vijnana sahitam yat gyatva mokshasi shubh. Knowledge, jnana with vijnan, knowledge with wisdom, yat gyatva, knowing which we get enlightenment, moksha, enlightenment, and we get auspiciousness, shubh. Now see this, managing self. How do we succeed? How do we manage self? Krishna says, Ananya chetaha yo mam smarati nityashah. Ananya chetaha. Ananya. Ananya means there is no other. Chetaha, in your attention. There is nothing else in your attention. See this. Ananya chetaha. Yo mam smarati. One who remembers me. Now, we need not contextualize it for today. Ananya chetaha. There is no other. Remember with that spirit the goal that you want to achieve, the task that you want to accomplish. Nityashah. Every moment. You have that focus. Complete focus on what you want to accomplish. Tasyaham sulabhapa. Krishna says, to him I am easily available. Now, let us contextualize this. What does it say? It says very clearly. One thing comes very, very obviously, it comes that to him it is easily available. So, what is easily available? Easily available. What is easily available? Leave everything else and focus on this. The task, the goal, the objective. So, if it is ananya chetaha, if it is ananya, there is no other. If that is available, then it will be successful there. And what should be the leadership style? Yadya charati shreshthas deve taro janaha. See, yadyada charati shreshthas tat deve taro janaha. What does it mean? Again, from Sri Bhagavad Gita, it is the 21st shloka from chapter 3. Says very clearly, yadyada charati, the way behave, the way who behaves, the way behave shreshthas tat deve taro janaha. The way the people who are superior to you behave, others follow. Now, thing is, it is stated in one context, but it can be stated now that you have to the leader has to show by example. Subordinates will follow. Bottleneck will lie always at the top of the bottle. Take care of the bottle, take care of the problem, and it will definitely be resolved. And what is at the top? At the top is the leader. And if that thing continues, that thing follows, then success will automatically come. Leader should provide an example. Leadership should be there to lead, and lead with example, then people will follow. And at the same time, what should be there? There should be ananya chetaha. That is, attention is on nothing else but on the task. And interestingly, one more thing is here. In our ethos, ancient Indian ethos, there is a concept of work-life balance, which is given by the Westerners. Work is separate and something called life is separate. Is that really so? Now, I like to talk about Ramcharitmanas. Scripture. This is a story of Shri Ram, which is written by Tulsidas. In a Sundarkand, he describes Shri Hanumanji is traveling. He's on the way to Lanka. All right. So, Jalanidhi Raghupati Doot Bichari Te Mainat Ho Hi Sramhari. This is a line that comes there. Jalanidhi Raghupati Doot Bichari Tay Mainat Ho Hisranhari. What it means is the ocean, Jalanidhi says, Raghupati Doot Bichari, that it is the Doot, it is the servant, it is the messenger of Raghupati, messenger of Shri Ram who is going. So Jalanidhi says that this is the messenger of Shri Ram who is going. So he addresses a small mountain which is there in the ocean at that time, and says, is it all right? There is some disturbance, Parul. Am I visible and audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I can continue.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Now see, Raghupati, Jalanidhi Raghupati Doot Bichari Te Mehna Kaho Hisramhari. So Jalanidhi, the ocean, is saying to that mountain that you please ask Raghupati, ask Shri Hanumanji to take some rest. After all, he is the messenger of Shri Ram. Now, in the very next line, response of Hanumanji is documented in that. And that talks a lot about the work-life balance as per our ethos, Indian ethos. And Tulsidas ji writes there, Hanuman tehi parsa karpuni keen pranam, Ram kaj keen he binu mohi kahan visram. Now what it means? It means Hanuman tehi parsa. Hanumanji touches that mountain with reverence, with respect. In response to the request made by Menak, please take rest. You have been traveling. You are on the way to Sri Lanka. Please take some rest here. And this is what the ocean has told me to communicate to you. Please rest over me for some time and go on. But Tulsidas ji writes, Hanuman tehi parsa. Hanumanji touches him with reverence. Kar puni keen pranam. After that, offers salutations to that mountain for the generous offer made by him. But makes a statement, Ram kaj keen he binu. Without completing the work of Shri Ram, mohi kahan visram, where is rest for me? Until I complete the job of Shri Ram that has been given to me, where is rest for me? Now see this particular expression talks about our ethos. There is no difference where life is, where life begins and where work ends. It is all together. Life and our work are the same because work itself is worship. For Hanumanji, it is Ram kaj keen he binu. The work itself is worship for Shri Hanumanji. So until the worship itself is embedded in the work. So I do not see work beyond myself. So where is the confusion for us Indians? Where is life? Where is balance? So this is actually, so there is no confusion that we stop the work right here and then we start personal. Those are all intertwined because work is worship. We find our joy within the work and look at the way life is organized, at least in the ancient or earlier times. Look at the life of people living in the villages. All women, they work, they are working at the farm, working at home. The men folk likewise, working at the farm, working at home, tending the animals, removing the weeds, and so on and so forth. Everybody is involved in everything, and everything goes on in unison, with some kind of great rhythm, my dear friends. So, like this, they talk of, for example, emotional intelligence. When they talk of emotional intelligence, they talk of this idea was given by Goldman. Now, when Goldman speaks about the idea of emotional intelligence, he says that as far as emotional intelligence is concerned, there are a few things that have to be kept in mind. And he talks of 5 things: self-awareness, self-regulation. Then he talks about motivation, empathy, and social skill. Now, all these 5 things which Goldman has been talking about since mid-80s, and scales have been developed for emotional coefficient. Those ideas are already there, for that matter, within the Bhagavad Gita. Only thing is, or in the Upanishads for that matter, only thing is that we need an eye to look at them. For example, he talks of self-awareness. Know yourself. Know yourself. That is what the idea is. Now, how do you know yourself? He gives certain prescriptions. How to know yourself? Stabilize your mind is the prescription given by Goldman. He talks of knowing your own values, your own beliefs. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is written, Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudrapah pravishyanti yadvat tadvat kama yat pravishyanti sarve sashantim apnoti na kama. What it means? The peace with which the water enters the ocean, with the same peace, we should visualize our desires. And if we are able to visualize our desires with the same peace with which the rivers enter the ocean, then in the pursuit of those very desires, we are able to maintain our balance. So simple, so beautiful. This is what has been packaged as means of arriving at self-awareness. Uddhare dat manatmanam na atmanam avsadaye. Atmev hyatmano bandharatmev viparat. The self is the cause of elevation of self. Uddhare dat manatmanam na atmanam avsadaya. And the self is the cause of the debacle of self. This is self-awareness. You be aware of what you are doing. The mind is just a space for that. Okay? So it is very interesting that the idea of self-awareness is right there. Self-regulation, they talk about. In second chapter, what does Krishna say? Krodhad bhavati sammoha. No, the starting point is that the moment there is a desire, there is attachment. All right? And the moment there is attachment, there is anger. And the moment there is anger, mind gets adversely affected. Okay, this is in the second chapter. It comes. It is very interesting. The moment we sanjay. This is just a moment. Bhagavad Gita is right in front of me. I hope I can get that particular shloka here. Just give me a moment. Dhyayato vishyan punsah sangasteshu pajayate. Dhyayato vishyan punsah. The moment you think of anything which is to be achieved, obtained, collected, that is vishay. Dhyayato. The moment it comes to your mind, dhyayato vishyan punsah sangasteshu pajayate. Immediately attachment arises. Dhyayato vishyan punsah sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama. Kamat krodho abhijayate. The moment you think of this attachment, the attachment will lead to anger. Attachment will lead to desires. Desires will Desires will lead to anger. And krodhat bhavati sammoha. Sammohat smriti vibhrama. Smriti bhranshad buddhinasho. Buddhinashat pranashyati. So anger will lead to destruction of the wisdom. And when the wisdom is destroyed, immediately you completely get destroyed. This is self-regulation. If this is not self-regulation, what self-regulation is? And if you read between the lines of what Goldman says about emotional intelligence, on the self-regulation, it is this. And then there is a prescription. There is a prescription here. Prescription here is Rag Dvesh Vyuktaistu Vishyan Indriyeshcharan. Whatever task you have to do, you do. But you do that without getting really involved. Again, self-awareness, self-regulation. And there is a motivation. And what is that? Ashma Vasher Vidheyatma Prasadam Adhigachati. Now the word is prasad. Prasad means joy. Joy will come to you when you are able to perform your task without getting attached. As simple as that. Only thing is that we are not packaging this wisdom in the manner in which it will be acceptable to the so-called logical world, my dear friends. What the need today is, dear friends, with all the young and mature and senior and junior professors who are listening to me, that we need to take this task upon ourselves. And this knowledge, which is there, needs to be discerned and understood in modern context and researched and presented in the form in which it will be acceptable to the scholars. That is, providing it the right kind of epistemology. If we are able to do that, that management of self will definitely be there. And secondly, yes, there are tasks. Group behavior we talk about. Very famous statement is there from Kathopanishad. Sehna bhavtu, sehna bhunaktu, sahaviryam karvavahe, tejasvinav dhitamashvu, ma vidvishavahe. Sehna bhavtu, together we get strength, together we are nourished, together we are able to gain glory. And it is together that we, in this togetherness, that we are able to transcend the jealousy. If this is not group behavior, if this is not teamwork, then what is, my dear friends? For short of time, for want of time, I am now shortening my discussion. I only wanted to introduce you this idea that there is a massive, massive potential, my dear friends, that we have in our ancient Indian documents, ancient Indian philosophy, which can be utilized for the purposes of developing management paradigms. Only thing is, what we need is right kind of motivation, right kind of perception, right kind of eye, which can bring out these ideas and then appropriately package it the way the Westerners are doing. And then we can not only reclaim our own knowledge in the modern context, but we can guide ourselves and our generations in a much better manner. Here, for example, there is a lot of discussion that has been going on about what we call gender issues. Okay. Now let us look at women. Now in US, for example, they have not been able to get a women president despite having more than 200 years of democracy. Our democracy, I don't know, I mean, it's hardly 77, 74, 75 years old. And we have had prime ministers who are women, chief ministers who have been women, president who has been women, and so on. Why? the women view of women here, it is again described in the Bhagavad Gita. Shri Krishna says, women means Kirti, Shri, Vak, Smriti, Medha, Dhriti, Kshama. These are the characteristics. Kirti is glory. Shri is prosperity. Vak is auspicious speech. Dhriti is ability to face difficulty. Medha is talent. Smriti is memory. And Kshama is forgiveness. This is how we describe how the women are visualized here in our culture. Now, thing is that these pearls of wisdom need to be brought out and be made part of our learning and learning processes and unfolding of the practices. If we are able to accomplish this, I'm sure we shall be able to develop paradigms of the working of the organizations, whether business organizations or non-business organizations, in the true Indian sense. So this is what, I mean, given the time, I think this is what I wanted to communicate. There were actually a large number of other thoughts and ideas, but for want of time, I would not be able to discuss. Now, I shall like Dr. Parul to take some questions if there are any.
Thank you so much, sir.
I'm sorry that I must admit that the exposition has not been very, very systematic because the time has been very, very short. My dear friends, I've dwelt on a large number of topics, jumping from one to another. So for which I seek your apology. But I think I have succeeded in putting across the fundamental idea that we need to look at our scriptures, our ancient Indian wisdom, and develop new paradigms which are relevant to us and to the world at large. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, sir. So there are two questions which I can see here, if you allow me. What are the challenges faced by the present system in implementing of Chanakya Niti to all stakeholders?
Yeah. You see, Chanakya's ideas, yeah, I can see this. I can see that I think this idea has been, this question has such challenges faced by the present system in implementing the Chanakya Niti Danda to all stakeholders. Chanakya was a politician, an economist, and a great thinker, undoubtedly. And he had his own vision of the power game. Politics is a struggle for power and clinging to that particular power, my dear friends. And the model given by Chanakya is essentially a model which is based on transactional model based on, and it makes certain assumptions. It makes assumptions about the human beings, that everybody, the one in power, has to stabilize his position there, and everybody else is out there to get him down, which is very true of the politics. And he says that entire energy has to be made in the direction of retaining your position and power, even at the cost of others. That is what my understanding of Chanakya is. Chanakya is ruthless in that sense. And he's transactional. To kind, he's kind. To unkind and the potential danger, he's absolutely ruthless, my dear friends. Now, in working of the organizations, where systems are very well laid down, we are not talking of merely the transactional leadership. We are talking of transformational leadership. We are talking of even the servant leadership. Now, as far as transformational leadership is concerned, as far as servant leadership is concerned, I do not know whether those ideas are embraced by Chanakya or not in his Chanakya Niti. He is essentially rooted in transactional forms of leadership, which is based on give and take. But if we are focus is on mastering self, then we transcend that. We transcend the transactional phase and we focus on the transformational phase and also the phase of servant leadership, where enlightenment and growth of all is focused on, rather than only the elimination of the rivals. That is what, I don't know if I have been able to answer your questions. Your question, this was Mr. HP who had sent this question. Yes. What
So
is the contribution of women? Dr. Divya Sharma is asking, what is the contribution of women in ancient Indian wisdom? Well, if you look at Upanishads, for example, Brihadar, oh, its name is such a tongue twister. This is Brihadakoranya Upanishad. Brihadar, I mean, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I'm not able to pronounce it. Brihadakoranya Upanishad is there, where there is dialogue between sage Bharadwaj and Maitreyi and Gargi. And this is the longest Upanishad that we have. And the name of this Upanishad is Brihadakoranya. Brihadakoranya? Yes. Brihadaranya. Yeah. This is Brihadaranya Brihadaranya Upanishad. Brihadaranya Upanishad. In this is the dialogue by Gargi and Maitreyi with sage Bharadwaj and others. So not Ahilya. Then it is there are other women who have contributed. Their names are there, and there have been direct contribution of these ladies, and there is indirect contribution of these ladies. Do you know there is a commentary called Bhanumati commentary? Now, Bhanumati commentary, for example, nobody knows the name of the author of that commentary upon the Vedas. This is Bhanumati. And who was this Bhanumati? This Bhanumati was wife of a sage who was busy writing the details. When he had completed this particular task, he raises his head up and he finds a lady in his house, and he asks that lady, "Who are you?" And lady says, "I am your wife." Very interesting. He says, "Oh, you are my wife. I was so deeply involved into writing this commentary that I have ignored you completely." And the person got into a complete sense of what you would call depression. But he said to her, "Only thing I can do is that I can give the name to this commentary after your name." And that is now known as Bhanumati Tikha, Bhanumati commentary. That is also a contribution. We can debate in diverse ways when we talk of women empowerment and so on, from today's perspective, that it was subjugation of women. Yes, it could be. It was treated as subjugation. It could be treated as subjugation of women, but at the same time, it is so empowering for the nation and society that such a massive commentary came upon the Veda, emerged regarding the Vedas, because of the sacrifice of this lady. On the other hand, we had large number of thinkers who have contributed extensively. Anasuya, for example, was another Vidushi. And there are large number of names which are there as we go through these scriptures, and we find that the women had contributed towards our understanding of not only this world, but the other world too. So that is there. And that mention about the exalted contribution by the women is there in large number of Upanishadic stories also. Look at the story of Savitri and Satyavan. What a great wisdom this lady had. The story of the wisdom of Mandodari, the great wisdom that was displayed for that matter by Kunti, by Draupadi, by Hidimba, and even for that matter by the mother of Duryodhana, and so many more women. The contribution of Subhadra, for example, in the understanding of the philosophy of detached task by Subhadra, that is there. So these are the contributions. Unfortunately, in our educational curriculum, these things have never been put forth, never been brought forward. So we do not know about them. Ahilya's contribution, though she was converted into a stone, as they would say in the story, but the intellectual contribution of Ahilya is massive and tremendous. So the question Dr. Divya Sharma has said, what is the contribution? Look for it, and you will find massive contribution by the women in ancient Indian or to ancient Indian wisdom. Mr. Anand B says, I think we need to teach management lesson from Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, etc. Yes, we can definitely do it. And thank you very much, Dr. Suvaiba, for giving this compliment of insightful session. ASC Degree 10 College says, dear sir, though Indian thoughts on SQ is profound, many Indian universities do not encourage research on the same, how to combat this crisis. Yes, that is there. But the only thing is that these ideas, if you can present in the positivist epistemological form, then you would be able to do it. Can you give it like positivist methodology is there? And in that positivist epistemology, the hermeneutics that is embedded in the ancient Indian wisdom, if you can successfully bring it in that form, then you would be able to do it. You prepare your research proposal in the form of what we would give positivistic form. If you are able to accomplish that, then you would be able to do it. That is the only solution that I see. Then Mr. Tarun says, sir, should Bhagavad Gita should be the part of curriculum so that people are trained and learn leadership qualities? Well, I can't say that it should be part of curriculum or it should not be, but the pearls of wisdom that are there in it can definitely be brought for discussion in the classroom. Yes, that can be done. How can we gain from our ancient wisdom? Well, management of self, management of group, and understanding of how the universe functions. That all can be taken care of if we focus on these aspects. And mind you, whatever is in the Bhagavad Gita, whatever is in Upanishads, whatever is in Vedas, it is not religious. It is not dogmatic. It is a very keen observation that is there on the working of the mind, the attention, and the attitudes, that is vritti. It is all about attention, mind, and vritti that it talks about, and thereby mastering yourself, your own self, for your own greater good and for the greater good of the rest of the world. Mr. Rakesh Kumar says, can we gain from our ancient wisdom? Is there any publication which is concise form and can be followed by us? Because doing deep study may take huge time. Sir, you will have to give time. Because as I said, Shrotavyam, Mantavyam. And third thing that I stated to you, Niditya Sitavyam. You have to meditate on it, you have to reflect on it, you have to listen to it, and replace listening with reading. You read and take any shlok, and then read its word for word translation, and then reflect on it. Ideas will come to you. Because mind is a space. It is like this. I'll put it in this way. Mind is a space. Just as there is a room here in which I am sitting. This is like, visualize it as a mind. And I am sitting here. It is a thought. Thought comes and goes. Now the quality of thought that falls in your mind is to be decided by you. And a continued thought becomes the belief. A thought on which you keep on dwelling for a long period of time, that thought becomes the belief, and you become slave of that belief. Now, don't allow yourself to become the slave of that belief. If you do not permit yourself to become the slave of the belief, then you are truly liberated. That is what your freedom is. Otherwise, who are we? Who are we? We are a bundle of beliefs. We have an interpretation, we have an opinion about everything. And from where that interpretation and opinion is coming? That is coming from our belief system. And what is that belief system? The thoughts which have stayed in our mind for a very long time. So, somebody says to me, for example, that I am idiot, I am stupid. Now, this is a thought that has come. Now, it disturbs me. When will it disturb me? It will disturb me when I allow it to become my belief. If I say no, it is not allowed to become my belief. It is just a thought. Somebody thinks that I am an idiot. Okay, you think as an idiot, and it ends at that. Period. Now it will not affect. So like this, the reflection that you don't allow thoughts to enslave your mind. Then the reflection will come. And when the reflection comes, then creativity will automatically follow. And when creativity comes, then automatically serve.
So there's another question.
Yes,
How Vedas help in decision making?
As I have said to you, that, as I said, I gave you, these scriptures are giving you ideas regarding management of yourself and management of your mind and intellect. If the mind and intellect are managed well, your decision making will automatically be more balanced. That's it. Your inspiration will be appropriate. You will not be affected by stereotypes. Now, stereotype is a very big problem that we have in our decision making. There is a large amount of research that has been done on heuristics and biases in the decision making. Most of the time we are irrational. There is Daniel Kahneman. He was given Nobel Prize to prove, because he proved that choices that we humans make are not rational. Choices we make are irrational. They are self-defeating many times, or they are harming others. Why? Because some ideas have been given to us. Because we have allowed those thoughts to get converted into belief. For example, I know some people making a statement, women cannot think clearly. Women are over emotional. Women are not balanced. They lose their emotional balance very fast. Now this person is stereotyping the women. On the other hand, there is a different thought completely which comes from Sri Bhagavad Gita, which says women are glory, kirti, shri, vak, smriti, medha, dhriti, kshama. They are glory, they are prosperity, they are auspicious speech, they are memory, they are talent, they have the ability to face difficulties. They are epitome of forgiveness. On the other hand, this is the thought that you have. Now, what belief system you would like to build, that will depend on you. You have to choose. So this alternative will come to you, my dear friends, when you start reading them and you start meditating upon them, you start reflecting upon them, and then you transmit it in a nice way to the people ahead. But before that, you have to be aware of your own belief system. Our belief system should not be full of stereotypes. People belonging to a particular region, they are of certain type. Stereotype. People speaking a certain language, they are of this type. Stereotype. But this is all wrong. We are all human. And we all are evolving. We all exist for our evolution and for the evolution of others. That is what it is. Mr. Tarun says, yes, sir, these characters have played the role in Mahabharata and had contributed much. Yes, Dr. Parul, any other questions?
Yes. Sir, would you like to take? There are two more questions. If you.
Yes. One question is by Mr. Kumar Anand. Is there a connectivity between
any connectivity between mind, intuition, and cosmic?
This is a question.
Cosmic energy.
This goes into metaphysics, my dear friends. I would rather not answer this question. My answer is yes, but I will not explain, because it diverts away from here. There is definitely a relationship between mind, intuition, and cosmic energy. Definitely there is. And that comes in the state when you are able to move in a state, you are able to realize that mind is a space. And you can realize that mind is a space only when you are in the state of thoughtlessness. And you understand, you are able to observe your mind. If you are able to observe yourself and your mind, then you will be able to understand this connection between mind, intuition, and cosmic energy, my dear friends. This is more of an experience than of logical lattice of thoughts.
Yes.
This question by Shiv Kumar. Sir, why could not we present our ideas to the whole world? What was our problem? Oh, Mr. Shiv Kumar, the problem is there is a politics of knowledge and there is a politics of sociology. We as a nation have suffered from that problem, because there is a politics of, for example, we are all researchers sitting here, we are all professors sitting here. Some are assistant professors, some are associate professors, some are maybe perhaps full professors here. If we discuss among ourselves and we say whose research is very good, so what answer do we expect? We expect that papers are published in, if it is a non-peer reviewed paper, non-peer reviewed journal, it should be Harvard Business Review. If it is a peer reviewed academic journal, it should be Applied Journal of Psychology, or it should be Journal of Finance, or it should be Journal of Personality. All these journals which are published in West. So where lies the real power? Real power is not in India. Our aspirations, our evaluations, our beliefs about our own intellectual strength that rests in the validation coming from West, not the validation that is coming from India. So that is why we could not present our ideas to the whole world, and this is what our problem is, Mr. A. Shivkumar.
So that is all. And I think I'll request the participants that from the points which Sir has given us, we can take it forward on the discussion forum which has been made for all of you. And you can discuss, and there would be peer learning that would take place. Sir, I would like to invite Dr. Aarti here for the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Parul. Am I audible?
Yes, Aarti.
Thank you, Parul. A very good evening to one and all present here. On behalf of the organizing team, it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks for the second session focusing on ancient wisdom and management. First of all, I would like to extend my warm regards and thanks to Professor C.S. Sharma, Professor, Shri Ram College of Commerce, University of Delhi, for such an insightful session, sir. I'm sure all the participants through finding out the linkage between knowledge gained with wisdom, and that too through the Indian ethos like Vedanta and Upanishads, and the that we need to associate this with the management. Thank you so much, sir. And last but not the least, I would like to extend my thanks to all the participants for their active participation. I hope you enjoyed this particular enriching session. Thank you, everyone. Once again, have a good day. Over to you, Parul.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aarti. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, I can leave, Parul.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, all the participants.
Thank
You've been very kind. Thanks a lot.
Live. बंद कर.
I've asked Prashant. Prashant. Thank you to all the participants. You can exit.